Hey guys, Dante here, back with another little video, and in this one I'll be talking about my plans for league starting in 3.16 Scourge League. And I know there's a lot of videos about league starters anyway, but I'll give my 2 cents for everybody who wants to know like what I think and why I think it's gonna be good, and why not, obviously. If you don't care about that, there's gonna be timestamps in the description and in the video, so feel free to click whatever your interest is piqued. Now, before we get into this, if you like this kind of content and stuff like that, in the future content is gonna follow like my builds. If you check my channel, I do a lot of build guides. Well, a few like 5-6 per league maybe. Consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. It will make my day. Thank you very much. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, about league starters for 3.16. Over here, I made a list that I think are gonna be good league starters. And I'm gonna go through each and every one, and then I'm gonna go through like people who make these kind of guides, and they're doing a way better job than I could do, because some of these skills I didn't play and I don't know how they work. So I'm gonna put a link to each of these guides into the description. I know like Toxic Rain, everybody's gonna go Toxic Rain. I Winter Minds, I know Path of Math is doing a guide on that one, so I'm gonna link his channel down there and stuff like that. So, my personal league starter is gonna be a General's Cry Berserker. Now, I didn't play General's Cry in 3.15, but the thing that made me interested is the fact that General's Cry with Shield Crush is gonna be much more affordable, I think, than a General's Cry with Blade Flurry. Because for Blade Flurry, you want Red Blade's Banner, which is usually very expensive in the early game. Not to mention the Paradoxica, which is probably gonna be very expensive in the early game. So yeah, I'm gonna go about how I think I'm gonna do this, and hopefully it turns out good, you know. So General's Cry Berserker. I managed to put this build up together in like an hour or two on stream with chat, and I think this is the iteration that I'm pretty happy with, to be honest. I made one with clusters and one without clusters, but I will get into that later. Okay, so why General Scribe Berserker? Because it scales out off of nothing really, as you can see in the POB, which is going to be in the description. All the items are very, very, very basic. I mean, the only two things that are big, quote unquote, are the rings, one which has vulnerability, Assassin's Mark ring, well, 3 actually, and then the body armor, which has additional curse and base crit, which, to be honest, is not really that hard to get. You just reforge attack, and you get attack crit, and hopefully you get lucky or stuff like that, or you could just buy it straight up like day 3 or something. I don't think it's gonna be that expensive, and then you're obviously gonna have the 6 link it, but that's another story. You can roll on the 5 link, which is just fine. Now, like I said, those items are very, very budget. There's nothing too expensive. Like you can see in the jewels, like it's just a 1 crit multi life and attack speed with nothing else really. No resist, no double crit, no nothing. You can probably even remove the attack speed and just roll whatever you want. So again, General Scribe basically scales off of the shield, which are we gonna use, because we're gonna use Shield Crush. What is it? So whenever we use a Warcry, we're gonna summon our boys from the General's Cry, which are gonna use the attack that they are linked to, in this case Shield Crush. So Shield Crush did get a slight nerf on the base damage, but on the scaling it is a actual buff, to the point where the better your shield is, the nerf is like almost inexistent, and it's straight up a buff to the damage. This build is very simple because it is using Cyclone. Now, General Stride does require corpses for you to be near corpses for them to spawn. So in order to get that, we're going to use Castwall Channeling, Cyclone, Desecrate, and Fortify. And then that's going to proc General Cry, which is going to spawn from the corpse you generate from Desecrate. they're gonna start spamming Shield Crush and running towards target and doing a lot of damage. The links we have in General Scry is Brutality, Melee Fizz, Impale, and Pulverize. These you can all get through progressing the story or buying through early vendors. Okay, so I did all the links here, like I'm using a totem setup, Ancestral War Chief, main multiple totems in Culling Strike, and then we're gonna use our auras, Pride, Blood and Sand, Dread Banner, Precision, and Herald of Purity. Now we're not gonna have mana for Herald of Purity, but you can use it until you can max out your other auras or stuff like that, or you're gonna figure it out, okay? Like in the weapon, you see here I have weapon and weapon, like the 3-link. We're gonna use Berserk, Enhance, and Vitality, and the cast 1 damage taken setup, Immortal Coil, cast 1 damage taken, and Leap Slam. So very basic, like no awakened gems, no level 21 gems, no nothing. And don't get debated about this number, it's not actually 48 million. I did some research and the chat actually helped me to figure it out, is because General Scry relays on a cooldown. And basically this is your DPS right here. So it's not 48 million, it's 12.4 million on a very small budget. Like if you go to PoE Antiquary, Darkseer Scepter is usually like once you only start. Crown of the Inward Eye is like probably day one is gonna be expensive, but you won't need it on day one. Just use a armor base L helmet until you get the Crown of the Inward Eye, which is good for defense, offense, and all that good stuff. For body armor, I'm using a armor chest and astral plate with, like I said, additional curse base crit and some life. Gloves are gonna be the what's the word called? I'm having brain lag. The ritual base with reduced attack damage of main hand, which doesn't matter, and increase attack damage of the offhand, which boosts the damage of General Scry and respectively Shield Charge. Shield Crush, sorry. For the boots, again, life, movement speed, armor, amulet, fizz, crit multi-life, and this is like top, maybe like a bit expensive it's gonna be, not gonna lie. It's got life, fizz, all fizz, physical skill gems, and crit multi. And like the rings, I mean, you don't really need vulnerability early. You don't need like Assassin's Mark, but Assassin's Mark is pretty good. It's not really hard to roll. You're just gonna use like Reforged Caster. You're gonna get Harvest inevitably. And Shaper base items are probably gonna be like day 2 upgrades, I wanna say. Day 2, day 3 maybe. But in the end, they're still pretty cheap. I hope. I did add Ruslata's Coil as the go-to belt just because we're getting Expedition as a core league mechanic, and I think the only reason why Ruslata's was so cheap in 3.15 was because of Expedition and how easy it was to get Ruslata's. If not, if you don't get a Ruslata or it proves to be very expensive, use a rare belt, life, resists, all the good stuff. Okay. For the flasks, the main thing you want is Lion's Roar, and then your normal flasks like Quicksilver, Sulfur Diamond, and then you're gonna probably want to use a Cinder Swallow once you get it, Ball of Fate, like by then week 1, week 2, stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of things you can upgrade in this build. So what are we using Darkseer Scepter? We're using Darkseer Scepter because it gives 10% global chance to blind enemies on hit, which is big. Blind does not affect your chance to hit. Okay, that's very important to note. Blind does not affect your chance to hit. And enemies blinded by you while you are blinded have malediction. So how do we get blinded? We are using the Brutal Restraint Timeless Jewel, which gives us this keystone, second sight. You are blinded, blind does not affect your light of sight, and 25% more melee critical strike chance while blinded, which is pretty big, as you can tell. Now, until you get this, don't use, probably you don't want to use Darkseer Scepter, you want to use a Skava or something. Yeah, you can use a Skava until you get the thingy here, right? So you're gonna ditch this and you're gonna use a Skava, okay? And then you use another rare jewel here. Alrighty, so that's the basics of the build. Basically, we spin to win, cast while channeling, generate corpses. We use our general scry to spawn the generals, like the little boys, and they're gonna kill stuff for us. Basically, all we do is spin to win. Now, for the clusters, these are gonna be like probably the main thing you want to upgrade first. Is gonna be you want like Advanced Guard, Field of Fire, Martial Prowess for a large cluster, and then immediately try to get your exerted attacks mediums with stuff like Hunting Shout, which is very big, like enemies stunted by your workers are intimidated, but it's free intimidate. Then you want Warning Call, then you get a 25% chance increased armor, which is a good defensive layer per 5 power for 8 seconds when you Warcry up to a maximum of 100%. Now, as you can see, General's Cry here, we are casting it every 1.8 seconds. So you can imagine this armor stacks quite a bit, and it's gonna give you a good defensive layer. Especially now that armor is reworked and it's actually worth speccing it too. For the other cluster, I'm using Lead by Example, or I will be using. You gain Onslaught basically every time you use a Warcry. Hey, free Onslaught. And then Mob Mentality and Warcries have 5% chance to grant an Endurance, Frenzy, or Power Charge. Basically, per power. So basically, you're gonna have these up all the time. There's no way you're not gonna be like, you're gonna have 3 Frenzy, 3 Power, 3 Endurance charges. Okay? So that's basically free generation, so you don't need to spec into like some masteries for power charge or frenzy charge or stuff like that. And over here, same shield, veteran defender. I mean, same cluster, attack damage while holding a shield. Riot Queller, veteran defender, and martial prowess. And in the medium, I'm using exerted deal 30% increased damage, 20% increased total power counted by Warcries. And Provocateur, which basically is 40% increased critical strike chance against taunted enemies, and crit multi against taunted enemies, which is like a good DPS increase. And I didn't bother getting another one because I'm already level 98 and running out of points. For the masteries, I took here, you want to take the Warcry masteries, increase damage for each time you Warcry. The shield mastery is 2% increased attack damage per 75 armor. We're gonna have a lot of armor on the shield by the end, like day 5, maybe 4. Life masteries, crit multi against unique enemies, regen 2% life, armor mastery, 100% increased armor from equipped shield. Like you can see here, like 3k more armor. Chance to block per 5% to block an equipped shield, basically free block, literally free block. At the, well, expense of 1 point, but I think it's really worth it, to be honest. Warcries have a minimum of 10 power, so basically every time you Warcry, those Warcries have at least 10 power with no enemies nearby. The more enemies nearby, the Warcries generate more power. So this buffs your clusters. Well, obviously we're gonna use Call to Arms because we need them to be instant, and even if they share cooldown, we're gonna only use General Scry very rarely. Probably gonna squeeze in the region one, forgot the name, but it's not in the PoB, so I'm probably not gonna use it. We're gonna use some Vitality here, but this is also not necessary, depending on how you prioritize your gear and mana reservation and stuff like that. And over here, exert attacks deal 25% increased damage. Pretty good, more damage. And then here, some percent life. Again, it's very basic. It's not revolutionary. I did this tree by looking at PoE Ninja for 2.15, and most of them used this layout, but of course the tree changed, so I had to redo it and get some accuracy here. So you're gonna see like all kinds of iterations of this build. There's no wrong way of doing it. Depends how you want to spec, right? I also here I didn't bother putting any resistance in the gear, so I did this little neat feature. Where is it? Custom modifiers. I just added here and just kept your resistances forehead, because that should be like common knowledge, right? You should have your resistances capped. Okay, so this is the one with the clusters. And this is the one without the clusters. Again, pretty much the same thing, a little bit more tanky, I think. As you can see, this guy is a beefton. This build takes no shit from nobody. Like 325k on Fizz, like 70 plus k on Elemental on the no clusters. I think the cluster one is a bit squishier, a little bit, but again, it's more quality of life. And I don't think you can justify not getting going clusters, especially for the quality of life part, like I said. Okay, so that's gonna be my build. I know Navandis did a very good guide. I just talked about the basics. I'm gonna put a link to his video in the description for a very more detailed guide. So yeah, this is gonna be my league starter, and hopefully it goes well. Now, talking about the other ones, Burning Arrow Elementalist, Burning Arrow. I did a guide like 2 weeks ago. Burning Arrow still not good. So I had high hopes for this when I read the manifesto and patch notes, but then when I plugged it into PoE, it was like, not really. So this I'm gonna probably delete. I do not recommend Burning Arrow Elementalist as a league starter. Maybe second, third character if you want to spend, because you're willing to invest a little bit. Hexblast Occultist, it's again an Ignite build, and I'm still thinking about making a PoE for this. I'm not decided yet. I'm gonna try and plug in the numbers, so if I do, I'll probably update the description below with the Hexblast PoE. So make sure to keep tuned for that, or join the Discord. I'll make sure to post everything on League Starter related over there. So Toxic Rain is gonna be the most meta skill for League Starter that I think like 80% of the people are gonna go Toxic Rain, either Raider or Champion. Now I know Ziz and Darky are doing a video for this, so make sure to watch that when it comes out, because I have no idea about Toxic Rain Champion. I have literally no clue. And Raider, I know Tuna has a build guide from last league. I assume nothing has changed except the path skill tree, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then Eye of Winter Miner, I know Path of Math has a guide on this one, so I'm gonna put his link in the description as well. And then Reap Mines, again, I think Path of Math again has Reap Mines. I'll put his link in the description again, so you guys can have like an idea of how it looks if you're the mine / trapper player. So that would be it for this one. I'm gonna keep it nice and sweet, nice and short and sweet. I will be streaming on League Launch. I'll be live like 2-3 hours prior to sit in queue, and I hope you guys will drop by. It would really make me really happy if you guys drop by, say hi, drop a follow, stuff like that. But until then, boys, I really look forward to chatting with you on League Start. I wish you all the best, all the luck, and make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and join the Discord if you want. Link is going to be in the description. Live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Dante00151, and I hope to see you there. Until then, boys, stay safe.